Which statement describes the solutions of this equation? Well, again, we're dealing with how many answers do we have, and do we have any extraneous solutions? So we have to go back and solve that equation. So I'm going to flip over to my paper to work on this. And before we get started on this, we really need to factor the denominator so that we can find the least common denominator to help us eliminate the fraction part of this to solve, the fraction part of the equation to solve. So if we take a look at this first denominator, we're going to factor the greatest common factor of 2, and we get x minus 3. 2x divided by 2 is x, 6 divided by 2 is 3. Over here on the other side, x squared minus 9 is the difference between two squares. X squared is x times x, 9 is 3 times 3, difference between two squares, different signs. So there are the denominators written out a little bit more, which is helpful. Because when we're finding the common denominator on this one, what we're looking for, first of all, is do we have anything that's the same? Well, we've got an x minus 3 that's the same. And then what's different? Well, in this equation, or in this fraction, we have a 2. Over here, we don't have a 2. That 2 has to be part of the common denominator. In this fraction, we have an x plus 3. Over here, we don't have an x plus 3. That has to be part of the common denominator. And once we determine what the common denominator is, now we can take that value of the common denominator and we can multiply the left side of the equation by that value, and we can do the same to the right side. And then when we take a look at this, what we're trying to do is we're trying to see, can we cancel anything out? And what I see in this left side is that there's a 2 up here, and there's a 2 down there. There's an x minus 3 here, there's an x minus 3 here, and what we're left with is we're left with the x plus 3 as well as the x minus 5. No more fraction on that side, and that's what we're trying to do. On the right side, we've got an x minus 3 and an x plus 3. So what we're left with is we're left with 2 times 10. So that worked out. Let's multiply these two out. Double distributive property, FOIL, whichever one works for you, and we get x squared minus 5x plus 3x minus 15. On this side, 2 times 10 is 20. If we combine like terms, we get x squared minus 2x minus 15 equals 20. And then we can subtract 20 from both sides, and we get x squared minus 2x minus 35 equals 0. And the reason that we're doing that is, again, remember, the answers were things like we have one valid solution and one extraneous solution. So we need a factor. And when we factor this, the factors of 35, because it's 1 times 35, are 1 and 35, and 5 and 7. And will either of those combine, either add or subtract, to be 2. Well, 7 minus 5 is 2, but we really need to have negative 2, so it's going to have to be 5 minus 7. So we get x squared minus 35, we're splitting the middle, and then it's going to be plus 5x minus 7x. Here's a group. Here's a group. Greatest common factor in the first group is the lowest exponent, and we get x plus 5 minus 7 7 is our biggest number that divides into both 7 and 35. Negative 7x divided by negative 7 is x. Negative 35 divided by negative 7 is positive 5. So what we've got is we've got an x plus 5 times an x minus 7. And then we can take both of those answers and set them equal to 0. So we subtract 5 from both sides, get x equals negative 5. We add 7 to both sides, we get x equals 7. And now what we need to do is we need to determine if we have any extraneous solutions. And again, what causes something to have an extraneous solution is if when we put this value of x back in the denominator and we get 0, we're not allowed to have 0 in the denominator, then we have an undefined fraction and therefore that solution will be extraneous. So if we take this value of negative 5, 2 times negative 5, we can even do my calculator here, 2 times negative 5 minus 6 gives us negative 16. Or negative 5 squared on the other side minus 9 gives us 16. And again, we're not looking there to have those be different numbers. That's okay. The issue is, do we get a 0 in the denominator? So negative 5 was one of our answers. We're going to do the same thing with 7. 2 times 7 minus 6 gives us 8. And then 7 squared minus 9 gives us 40. Again, neither one of those answers is 0. So when we go back and look at Edmentum, we're looking for 2 valid solutions and no extraneous solutions, which is our last choice.